The galaxy, vast and teeming with countless civilizations, had always been a realm of undisputed peace under the benevolent oversight of the Galactic Council. Species from different solar systems coexisted, their differences settled through diplomacy rather than war. But peace is often a delicate veneer, easily shattered by those who lurk in the shadows. The Krellians, a warlike species from the dark fringes of the Nebulon cluster, were known troublemakers, yet their actions had never escalated to galactic concern until they targeted Earth. Earth was a relatively new member of the galactic community, its inhabitants known as humans, creatures of emotion and profound attachment to their own kind, traits often viewed by other species as primitive and volatile. On a day that would forever alter the course of interstellar relations, a small human settlement on the outer rim of the Sol system was raided. The Krellians, driven by their insatiable greed for resources, hadn't expected much resistance from what they perceived as a technologically inferior race. The raid was brutal and swift. The Krellians descended upon the settlement with their advanced weaponry, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Homes were obliterated, and the air was thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded and bereft. Among the chaos, a young human child named Ellie wandered through the wreckage, searching for her parents. Her tears were lost in the cacophony of the ongoing assault. As she stumbled through the debris, a Krellian soldier caught sight of her. To him, she was just another spoil of war, insignificant and easily disposed of. The decision was made in a moment that would haunt the galaxy for eons. The soldier raised his weapon, and with a cruel indifference, he ended her young life. The act was witnessed by a surveillance drone, which faithfully recorded every horrifying detail. The footage of Ellie's death spread like wildfire across the galaxy, transmitted through every possible medium. The image of the small, fragile human child, her life extinguished by an alien aggressor, ignited a fury that had never been seen among humans. Back on Earth, the news of the attack and the murder of a human child broke the collective heart of humanity. It was not just grief that swept through the human colonies, but a seething, pulsating anger. Leaders who once preached diplomacy and restraint called for retribution. The murder of Ellie became a rallying cry, a cause that united humans across planets in a singular, unwavering demand for justice. The Galactic Council, initially hesitant to intervene in what the Krellians claimed as a minor border skirmish, found themselves facing an unprecedented crisis. The humans, their rage encapsulated in the image of Ellie's lifeless body, were not seeking justice through the usual channels. They demanded action, immediate and decisive. In the corridors of power, where decisions of war and peace were weighed with careful diplomacy. In the wake of the tragedy, Earth's governing bodies convened in an emergency session, the urgency palpable in the charged atmosphere. Leaders from various sectors of human space came together, not just to mourn, but to forge a path forward, a path that invariably led to retribution. Among them, Admiral Sarah Lynn, a seasoned veteran of space conflicts, took the lead, her voice steady and her resolve unwavering. "The Krellians have made a grave mistake," Admiral Lynn stated, her eyes scanning the room filled with representatives. "They believe they can strike at us with impunity. They are wrong. We will respond, and our response will be fierce." Plans were drawn up with meticulous precision. Human intelligence had managed to intercept Krellian communications, revealing the locations of their military bases. A multi-pronged assault was planned, targeting these strategic points to cripple the Krellian war effort before it could fully mobilize against Earth. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of the Nebulon cluster, the Krellian War Council was in session. They were aware of the growing unrest among the humans, but remained arrogantly dismissive. General Craw, the architect of the raid, scoffed at the reports of human mobilization. "They are led by their emotions," Craw barked, his voice echoing in the stark chamber. "Their sentimentality will be their downfall. We will crush them as easily as we did their settlement." Back on Earth, the construction of the Retribution fleet was underway. Ships designed for rapid assault and heavy bombardment were being equipped with the latest weaponry. Special units trained in guerrilla tactics were briefed, ready to deploy and wreak havoc behind enemy lines. Admiral Lin oversaw the preparations, her face a mask of determination. Each ship that joined the fleet was a testament to humanity's technological prowess and its thirst for justice. Among these ships, the flagship Vengeance stood ready, a behemoth of war bristling with armaments. As the fleet prepared to depart, a message was broadcast across all human territories, a message from President Maria Alvarez, the elected leader of Earth. Her voice, usually calm and diplomatic, carried a new weight of solemnity. "To the Krellians and all who witness our actions today," she began, "know that we do not embark on this course lightly. We sought peace, we cherished it, but we will not stand by while our children are slain. We fight not for conquest, but for Ellie, for every human life taken before its time. We fight for justice." The transmission ended with images of Ellie, her smile immortalized, a stark contrast to the fiery preparations for war. Across human space, her image became a symbol, not just of loss, but of the indomitable spirit of a people pushed too far. As the fleet moved out, passing through the warp gates that dotted human-controlled space, a silent vigil was held on every ship. The gravity of their mission was not lost on anyone. This was not merely a military operation. It was a crusade for the soul of humanity. In the deep expanse between stars, where light struggled against the oppressive dark, the Retribution fleet surged forward. Their destination was the Krellian frontier, where the first battle would be fought, a battle that would undoubtedly shape the future of the galaxy. Unbeknownst to the humans, a Krellian defector, moved by the plight of the humans and disillusioned by his people's cruelty, made his way towards Earth with crucial intelligence. His arrival could tip the scales, but only if he arrived in time. The Krellian defector, his small stealth craft flickering through the void, raced against time to deliver his critical information. His name was Soren, a navigator who had once charted stars for the Krellian military, but now sought redemption among the stars he had once helped conquer. His cargo was not just data, but a potential turning point in the forthcoming conflict. On Earth, in the command center buried deep beneath the surface, Admiral Lin and her team of strategists monitored the fleet's progress. The air was tense, charged with anticipation and the weight of responsibility. The holographic displays showed the advancing ships, their trajectories converging on the Krellian border systems. In these quiet moments before the storm, tactical discussions were punctuated by updates from the intelligence division. Suddenly, an aide approached Admiral Lin, a message of urgency clear in his hurried steps. "Admiral, we've received a signal from a Krellian craft requesting asylum. They claim to carry intelligence critical to our operations," he reported, his voice barely a whisper over the hum of the command center. Lin's eyes narrowed, her mind racing through the possibilities. "Bring him in, but use caution. It could be a trap," she instructed, her decision quick and decisive. As Soren's craft approached Earth, escorted by a pair of fighter jets, his heart pounded with a mix of fear and hope. The Earth's defenses, a formidable array of satellites and space stations, tracked his every move. Meanwhile, the Retribution fleet reached the outer defenses of the Krellian systems. Skirmishes erupted along the border as Krellian patrol ships engaged the human invaders. The battles, though small, were fierce, each side testing the other's resolve and strength. On board the Vengeance, Admiral Lin received real-time updates. Each report of engagement, each skirmish tightened the knot in her stomach. Her focus, however, shifted as Soren's craft landed. Escorted under heavy guard, Soren was brought before her. "I bring codes and defense plans of the Krellian military," Soren declared, his voice steady despite the clear risk of his defection. "I cannot undo what my people have done, but I wish to help stop further bloodshed." Lin studied him, her gaze penetrating. "Why defect now?" she asked. Soren's eyes flickered with memories of horrors witnessed. The attack on the child. It was a catalyst. "I realize that my people have lost their way. I seek to help restore balance," he confessed. Convinced of his sincerity, Lin integrated the intelligence into their operational plans. The data revealed a weak point in the Krellian defenses, a poorly guarded armory planet, critical to their war supply line. With new targets identified, The human fleet adjusted its course. Stealth bombers, cloaked in the darkness of space, made their way toward the armory planet. The element of surprise was on their side. As the bombers approached, Krellian sensors, compromised by Soren's codes, failed to detect the incoming threat. Explosions rocked the planet as the armory's defenses were systematically dismantled. The shockwave of as the human forces carved their path through Krellian territories, the news of the armory's destruction spread like a supernova's shockwave across the galaxy. In the war rooms of the Krellian War Council, the atmosphere turned volatile. General Craw, faced with the unexpected ferocity and cunning of the human military, pounded his fist against the cold metal table. "We underestimated them," he growled, his eyes scanning the room filled with his top commanders, all equally shaken. "This will not happen again. Prepare the Dread Fleet. We end this now." His order sent a ripple of urgency through the ranks. The Dread Fleet, a legendary armada said to be capable of leveling entire planets, had been a deterrent, their very existence a myth to some. Now, the myth was to become a terrifying reality. Meanwhile, the human fleet, buoyed by their recent victory, pushed deeper into enemy space. Admiral Lin, aware of the growing desperation of the Krellians, anticipated a significant retaliation. She convened her top aides and strategists aboard the Vengeance, the star maps glittering with potential battlegrounds before them. "We've struck a significant blow, but we must be vigilant. The Krellians will retaliate, and it will be with everything they have," Lin cautioned her team. "Intelligence suggests the Dread Fleet's involvement. We need to be ready." Preparations escalated into high gear. Defensive formations were strengthened, and reconnaissance units were dispatched to monitor Krellian movements. The humans would not be caught off guard. Elsewhere, on a small, nondescript outpost on the edge of Krellian-controlled space, Soren worked alongside human technicians, his knowledge of Krellian technology proving invaluable. They hacked into communication arrays, intercepting fragments of plans and coordinates, anything that might give the humans an edge. One such intercept, a garbled transmission, hinted at the convergence of the Dread Fleet at the Kairos Nebula, a strategic choke point. Soren, realizing the importance of this information, sent it immediately to Admiral Lin. "The Kairos Nebula could be the site of the next major engagement," Soren advised, his voice urgent over the comlink. "If they control it, they can cut off your advances or worse. Flank your positions." With the nebula's strategic importance clear, Admiral Lin ordered a contingent of the fleet to secure it. The nebula, with its swirling gases and intermittent radiation bursts, was a natural fortress. If they could hold it, they could control one of the main routes into Krellian space. As the human ships approached the nebula, sensors picked up the massive energy signatures of the Dread Fleet emerging from the shadows. The nebula lit up with the light of charging weapons and the eerie glow of engines. The battle commenced with a ferocity that matched the stakes. Human ships, agile and determined, darted among the larger Krellian dreadnoughts, their weapons slicing through the void. The Krellians, with their superior firepower, unleashed volleys of plasma that turned space into a deadly light show. Amidst the chaos, Admiral Lin directed her forces with a calm that belied the storm around her. Each move was calculated, each order precise. The Vengeance at the heart of the fleet became the fulcrum of the human resistance. The battle raged for hours, the nebula echoing with the sounds of war. Metal on metal, the roar of engines, the cries of the fallen. Ships on both sides were lost to the void, their remains a grim testament to the day's horrors. As the tide of battle shifted, with neither side gaining clear supremacy, a sudden burst of radiation from the nebula's core offered a momentary advantage. The human fleet, smaller and more maneuverable, used the cover to launch a daring offensive. In the volatile heart of the Kairos Nebula, as bursts of radiation illuminated the battlefield, Admiral Lin seized the moment. "Now! All units, advance!" she commanded, her voice cutting through the static of disrupted communications. The human fleet, their ships coated in the shimmering dust of the nebula, pushed forward, exploiting the temporary confusion among the Krellian ranks. On board the Vengeance, the crew worked with precision, their actions a well-rehearsed dance in the art of warfare. Torpedoes and laser cannons fired in synchronized volleys, each burst of energy targeted to disrupt the Krellian dreadnought's shields. The Krellians, caught off balance by the sudden and aggressive maneuver, scrambled to reorient their forces. General Craw, aboard the lead dreadnought, roared orders to his subordinates. "Form up! Protect the core vessels!" But his commands were too late to prevent the swift-moving human ships from breaching their defensive perimeter. In this critical moment, Soren's intelligence proved invaluable. Human pilots, guided by the detailed schematics he provided, targeted key weak points on the Krellian ships. Explosions blossomed across the enemy fleet, the destruction magnified by the nebula's volatile gases. Back on Earth, news of the battle streamed in real time across various channels, holding billions in rapt attention. Humanity's fight for justice, sparked by a tragedy, had become a spectacle of resistance and courage, a testament to their resolve. Amidst the chaos of battle, a small team of human commandos, using cloaked shuttles, infiltrated the flagship of the Krellian fleet. Their mission was clear: capture or eliminate General Craw. The team, led by Commander Helen Miro, maneuvered through the labyrinthine corridors of the dreadnought, engaging in fierce firefights with Krellian soldiers. Commander Miro, her face smeared with soot and her eyes alight with a fierce determination, led her team to the core of the ship where they suspected Craw would command the battle. As they breached the command center, they found Craw, his imposing figure framed against the backdrop of the ongoing battle, visible through the massive viewports. "General Craw, your war ends here," Miro announced, her weapon trained on the Krellian leader. In the aftermath of the battle within the Kairos Nebula, the human fleet, scarred but unbroken, made its way back towards Earth. The capture of General Craw and the strategic victory had sent ripples throughout Krellian territories, sparking both unrest and a call for peace among various factions. Admiral Lin, aboard the Vengeance, presided over a meeting with her top commanders and diplomats. The room was lined with monitors displaying the damaged fleet and the faces of leaders from allied species who had watched the humans' determined fight with growing respect. "We've been given an opportunity," Lin started, her gaze firm yet weary from the battles fought. "Craw's capture is a blow to the Krellians, but it is also a chance for peace. We must use this moment to broker a lasting ceasefire." The diplomats nodded, their expressions grave. The task ahead was daunting, negotiating peace with a civilization that had, until recently, seen humans as nothing more than a minor threat. Meanwhile, General Craw was held in a secure location, his every move watched. He had been defiant at first, unyielding in his belief that the Krellian spirit could not be broken. Yet as days passed and reports of his fleet's defeat and the subsequent calls for peace reached him, his demeanor changed. The reality of his situation and that of his people began to weigh on him. On Earth, President Alvarez prepared for the upcoming peace talks. The war had unified humanity in a way no one had predicted, transforming their society from one of diverse, often conflicting ideologies to a cohesive unit focused on survival and justice. Public broadcasts showed images of the returning fleet, and every human colony, station, and outpost celebrated their heroes. Amid these celebrations, however, were memorials for the fallen, solemn reminders of the cost of war. The peace conference was to be held on a neutral planet, one that had remained untouched by the conflict. Leaders from across the galaxy arrived, their ships filling the orbit, a testament to the importance of the coming negotiations. Admiral Lin, now acting as a chief negotiator for Earth, met with her Krellian counterparts. The discussions were tense, with deep-seated mistrust on both sides. However, the desire for peace was palpable, driven by war weariness and the fear of mutual destruction. After days of negotiations, a treaty was drafted. It called for the disarmament of the Krellian military complexes and a war reparations fund to be paid to the affected colonies. In return, Earth would help rebuild the Krellian territories and ensure their integration into the Galactic Council. When the treaty was signed, there was no jubilation, only a somber acknowledgement of the difficult path ahead. The galaxy had changed irrevocably, but there was hope that this new peace would be a lasting one. Admiral Lin returned to Earth, her mission complete but her thoughts on the future. Rebuilding would take time, and the scars of war would not fade quickly. Yet she believed in the resilience of her people and their capacity for forgiveness and growth. As Earth and its colonies began the slow process of reconstruction, the story of the conflict, Ellie's tragic death, and the subsequent quest for justice became a part of the human legacy. Monuments were erected in memory of the lost, and Ellie's story was taught to new generations as a poignant reminder of the cost of peace. The galaxy watched and learned from the human example. The unity and determination shown by humanity taught other civilizations the value of coexistence and the strength found in diversity. As stars continued to burn bright against the vast canvas of space, the galaxy moved forward, its inhabitants forever changed but hopeful for a future where peace would endure.